I'm Stuart Charity. I'm the Executive Director of the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Association. Independent repair and service businesses right across Australia are facing a number of serious challenges at the moment, including the technological advancement of vehicles, the skills and training gaps, and also the predatory behaviour of the car companies. For these reasons, we believe the time is right to form a truly national group that exclusively represents the interests of independent repairers around the country. And we've done that by forming a group called the Automotive Repair Council of Australia, or ARCA. The main activities of ARCA are to protect consumer choice and competition in the vehicle repair and service market by ensuring that we have mandated access to dealer level repair and service information, and to really put the spotlight on some of the anti-competitive behaviour of the car companies, including their cap price and free service programs, and also warranty confusion and misinformation. One of the activities that we'll be doing is leveraging our relationship with parts suppliers so that we can deliver technical and training nights around the country, and we've also got a number of initiatives in place to start to address the skills gaps in the industry. One of the benefits will be that we'll be doing research to help identify initiatives that can be implemented in ARCA members' businesses to help them improve their profitability and business performance. Well, if you're a progressive repairer that cares about the future of our industry, then you need to join ARCA, and together we'll make sure that there's a bright future for everyone in our industry.
Okay, we'll talk about ARCA a little bit later on. Let's get stuck straight into this. From a suburban mechanics workshop to international businesswoman and disruptor of global industry, Rachael Sheldrick is a successful workshop owner, author, and Australian New Zealand leading business mentor for self-employed mechanics. Rachael is the Managing Director of GS Mechanical and the Workshop Whisperer. Specialising in marketing, improving productivity, staffing and cash flow, Rachael now consults to thousands of auto repair business owners across Australia to help them achieve higher profits and more time with their families. One of the key areas to ensure auto repair business success and leadership, and today, Rachael will provide you valuable tools to help you become a better boss in the auto repair industry. So please welcome the Workshop Whisperer, Rachael Sheldrick.
Thank you, Colin. Welcome, everyone. Congratulations for putting yourself in this learning environment first thing on a Saturday morning. I think it's Saturday. I've been here for 3 days and I haven't seen the sunlight, so... Okay, so who is feeling like their experience in their workshop could be a bit better if they were a better boss? Show of hands? Awesome. Okay, well, you're in the right room. So as Colin mentioned, I'm a workshop owner as well, as helping workshop owners around Australia and New Zealand to run better businesses. I have a workshop in Newcastle, which I own with my husband, and we started out in the industry as mobile mechanics and progressed into workshop. So what I'm going to talk to you about today are some of the strategies that we've learnt over time and that I share with my clients and are proven to be highly successful. Now, I'd really like this to be a nice, relaxed conversation today, so I actually don't want you to take any notes. And I've prepared notes for you, and if you want to get out your phone, you can actually SMS the word BOSS to this number, 0439 100 407, and it will automatically send the notes to your inbox of your email address. So that will be up on all of my slides. So I'm that presenter that's okay with you getting your phone out, but only for this texting exercise. Okay, so text BOSS to that number. It'll send you back a quick text message and it'll ask your name and your email address, and the notes for today will be in your inbox. If you can't find them immediately, just check your junk mail. But let's get stuck straight into it. So what do you need to be a great leader in the auto repair industry? Well, there's a couple of things that we need to do, and the first of those things is to assess your own leadership style and its pros and cons. So for some of you at the moment, you might not even understand that you have a leadership style. You get really, really busy during the day, you get distracted, and it is what it is. You managed to get through. But what we want you to think about is how you relate to these styles that I'm going to show you at the moment. We also want you to think about becoming crystal clear on your vision in order to be able to successfully communicate that vision to others. So what is it that you want for your business? And once we clearly understand that, you'll be able to better communicate it. We want to find out what truly motivates your team in order to achieve the goals of the business. So if your team doesn't buy into your vision, you're going to have a hard time achieving what you want to achieve. We need to implement a clear human resources process that supports everyone in the team. And we want the team to be more productive and work cohesively even when you aren't there. So who'd like to be away from the workshop and not have a worry in the world? Yeah. So we spent 5 weeks in the US over Christmas time while our workshop ran without us, and I'd love to, for you to take home some of the strategies that we've been using that allow us to do that. So I'd like to introduce to you the Turbo Leadership Method. Okay, so turbo, it's a word that we're all familiar with, but now it's going to have 2 meanings for you. So I'm going to explain to you what each of these elements are today. And if nothing else, I'd love for you to walk away from today, if it's only with this word in your mind, so that when you feel overwhelmed in a leadership situation, if you just remember the word turbo, you'll remember to stop, think slower, and then make a decision. Okay? So let's get started. The T in turbo stands for time. You need to think slow in a leadership situation. Believe it or not, you do not need to be thinking faster than the person that you are talking to or then the situation is occurring. So the person who is thinking the slowest in either a confrontation or a conversation, and the one who is asking the questions is actually in control of the situation. So if you have a team member that's upset, either with the car that they're working on, they've had an interaction with a customer that they're really upset about, or they're going off at you because they're upset with many things, you need to slow down your own thought process in able to be able to take control. So let's talk about what type of leader you are. And I'll ask you by show of hands if you can relate to any of these styles. Neither of them is wrong or one being more right than the other. Hopefully you do have some elements of most of them. But this first one, an autocratic leader, is something that we would like you to only have a dash of. So an autocratic leader means that it's all about the boss. You impose your will on the team, and the team has very little or no input into how things run. And this might happen for you right now because you're so busy. So you just assume that rather than delegate or sit the team down for big conversations where you can brainstorm ideas, you just think it's just faster if I just tell them what to do, we do it my way, or you jump in and you decide, oh, it's just faster if I do it myself. Does anyone relate to that leadership style when you're busy? Yeah, don't be afraid to put those hands up, it's okay. So just a dash of autocratic leadership style is all that's required, and hopefully more of the following ones. So a laissez-faire leader is a hands-off leader. This might also be one of the more common ones for some of the workshop owners in the room. I call this actually abdicating leadership. You get so overwhelmed that you don't actually know how to tackle situations, so you just don't do anything at all. You just think it'll work itself out in the end. Sometimes that's less stressful for you. However, in the long term, it's not good for team members that need nurturing. Who can identify with being a bit of a laissez-faire leader? Yep. Very brave people putting up their hands. So it leads to the lowest productivity, this form of leadership, okay, because nobody's really giving the instructions. So our third type is democratic. So everybody has a say in a democratic leadership style. Most of you would be familiar with what a democracy is. But is this really an effective way for you to take your business forward? Because if everybody has a say, you might actually find that no decisions get made because there are too many people giving their opinion and you can't reach agreement on what should happen. A transactional leader is somebody who rewards or punishes. So this type of leader might set targets or KPIs in order for the team members to achieve a bonus. So that's a reward, but they'll also back it up with, if we don't make it, we're not paying overtime. Or if you can't sell your 8 hours a day, don't bother putting in for any overtime, okay? That's a transactional leader. Rewards may work in the interim to increase productivity, but over time, they will actually demotivate your team because some of your team members will start to say, well, what else are you going to do for me just so I'll do my job? Okay, so we don't want too much transactional leadership in your workshop. But what we do want is a transformational leader. So this leader works with other members of the team to identify what change is needed, and they create the vision to guide the business through that change by being inspirational. So they help the team execute the changes, and it's usually committed members of the team that will step up and work with the transformational leader. Who likes the sound of being a transformational leader? Yeah. Who feels like they're already a transformational leader? Nice. Well done, guys. So you have something called idealised influence. So this is for transformational leaders who behave in ways that result in them being role models for others. So they inspire others. Others trust them. They want to be around them. And they're respected. So in order for us to be a better boss in our businesses, we need to have a whole lot of idealised influence going on. But it's not something that you can just decide today. As you know, trust and respect is earned from your team. So in essence, leadership and being a better boss starts with you. It starts when you go back to the workshop on Monday or whenever you get back there if you've travelled across the country. And it starts with what you put on display right from the word go. So who would agree that you are on display, whether your team members are looking at you or not, every minute of the day that you're there in your business? Yeah. So how about what we put on display is leadership and not just management? Because you're all already managing your teams, and for those who feel like they're struggling, managing is not actually getting you anywhere. So we need to lead. There's a difference, and it comes from being transformational. So the U in Turbo stands for upper hand. So we want you to always be proactive and be one step ahead of the team. This is where we need to have that clear vision. So be always thinking about what you want the business to look like. What do you want it to look like next week? What do you want it to look like next month, next year, in 5 years' time? Do you even want to be there in 5 years' time? I see some heads shaking. So in order to execute the vision, you must have a plan, and if you want the team to buy into the vision, they must be included in the planning. So who does an annual planning day with their team? We've got one up the back there, two. Yeah, and one down the front. Okay. Well, the reason that my clients and I are able to have so much success with the growth of our businesses is because we have annual and quarterly planning. So what does it look like? Well, we follow a system which is called the Rockefeller Habits. And I've actually created a planner that will help you implement this in your business. And you can come and see me at my stand for that later. I have 30 copies left. But basically what we're doing is we're inviting the team into the business planning process, and in doing that, they will contribute ideas, they will feel like they have some control over the direction that the business is going to take, and they'll clearly understand their part in it. They'll walk away from it knowing exactly what their expectation is. And some of them who maybe you had an inkling that something's not right with them, they're not quite right, they may actually opt out of working in your business on their own when they understand what the expectations are of them in the business after a planning session. Okay? Because it's a session for another time, but there is a big difference between staff that work for you and talent. Okay? And it's talent that you want on board with you in the planning session. So you can talk to me about that down on my stand later. The R in Turbo stands for responsibility. Are you leading the business, or does your business lead you? Are you being led by a team member who does great work but is potentially destroying the culture of your business? Has anyone had experience with one of those? Yeah. Does anyone have one of those right now? Oh, that's a bit scary. Yeah. So what leadership style do you think you're using by allowing that person to remain in your business? Are you abdicating leadership because you're not actually sure what to do? Do you fear that if they left without a replacement, that your business would fall into a hole? This is where we need a clear HR system, a framework in your business. You have to deal with toxic team members. There's no two ways about it. You will not get the growth that you want by allowing a toxic team member to stay, because it's not just them and you that is affected by that relationship. A toxic team member will start to try and influence your other good eggs. So I do have a client that had a team member on board that he knew wasn't right, but he kept him there for 12 months. And he knew that he should have moved him on, but he didn't. And it actually prevented the right person from coming along. So after 12 months, after we had a big chat about it, and this person was eventually moved on, put a job ad out, and now he's got a brilliant technician in his place. You do prevent the right person from coming along if you hold on to somebody that's not right for you. Okay? So the B stands for being brave and bold. Who doesn't like confrontation? Yeah. Nobody likes to be in a situation where you've got to, if it's with a customer, if it's with a team member, if it's with your spouse. A lot of us are uncomfortable with tough conversations. But in your workshop, you need to have tough conversations in the moment. I'm sure there are many wives that can attest to a very stressed out, grumpy husband who comes home because rather than deal with the situations at the time, they just come home and let it all out on the spouse. Any wives brave enough to say that that happens? Yeah. Okay, so by not actually dealing with that at the time, you're not allowing that, if they're a staff member, you're not allowing that staff member the opportunity to become talent. Okay, so it's your job as a leader to have those tough conversations in the moment. And maybe if you've got a customer around and you need to have a conversation with the team member, you obviously wait for the customer to go. Don't ever berate your team in front of a customer. But you deal with it in a timely manner. And, you know, that's within half an hour if you can. So we need to implement the HR system, as I said just before. And we need to have quarterly performance reviews. Who does that? A couple? Yep. Who's thinking, what's that? Yeah. What we actually want to do is change the name of the quarterly performance review because we all know what that means. And if we remember back to when we were employees, excuse me, when we were employees, if it was time for us to have, if it was time for, oh gosh, excuse me. I'll be living up to my name in a second. Okay. A performance review was a scary thing for us. It usually meant that our boss was going to deliver us some bad news, even a shit sandwich if we were lucky. Some good news followed by some bad news followed by some good news, just to make us feel a bit better. So let's change the name of the quarterly performance review to a feedback forum. Okay, it sounds much more pleasant and it actually gives our team members more of an idea of what we're after, which is actually feedback from them as to how they feel in their role inside our business. Who thinks that whole scenario sounds much, much better? Yeah. And let me tell you, it will change the way that your team members behave inside your business. If they think that they've got a chance to be honest with you and that you'll actually listen and take it on board, they will tell you what you want to know. So the feedback forum is only one part of the HR system. You should actually make it known, of course, to your team that they can come to you at any time. And hopefully you'll get in the habit of following the other parts of the Rockefeller habits, which is having a daily huddle, 5 minutes in the morning hopefully, but 5 minutes before you leave is okay too. Having a weekly meeting that's a little bit longer than the daily huddle, and a monthly meeting. And then you would have quarterly planning where the whole team comes together. And you talk about what worked for you in the previous quarter, what didn't work for you, and what lessons can you learn from that? What are the business's strengths and weaknesses and opportunities? And what are the issues that you need to overcome in the next quarter to help you grow? The other thing that we need inside our HR framework is that everybody needs to have a proper written job description, a work agreement, and a HR policies and procedures manual that lists all of, it's your business's Bible basically, all of the policies that a team member needs to agree to be in your team and represent your business. Is there anybody that has all of those things in existence right now? Fantastic, congratulations. For Australian businesses, because I know that we've got some visitors from New Zealand in the room, you need to give every single one of your team members a copy of the Fair Work Statement, which is downloadable from the Fair Work website. And if you haven't done that as yet, then no matter how long your team members have been with you, go online and download those on Monday and hand them out. It's a legal requirement that you do that. Okay? If your team members have been with you for a few years and you don't have a position description or a job description in place or a work agreement or a policies and procedures handbook, you also need to get those things in place and get them all signed. Okay, so don't think if somebody's been with you for 10 years and they don't have those documents that you can't give them to them now. What we need in our industry are businesses that are professional, that treat their businesses just like they were any other retail or corporate entity. Okay, just because we're in automotive doesn't mean that we don't need to do things properly like other businesses would. Okay? And it's part of you stepping up as a leader. You can't shy away from doing this stuff. So, getting back to the feedback forum, they're actually the best way for you to get to know your team members and what motivates them. Who's discovered that money alone doesn't motivate their team members? Yeah. So usually the fastest way to demotivate somebody, as I mentioned just before, is to dangle more money in front of them and ask them to achieve something else for that money. Because if they're not motivated by money, they're not going to be inspired at all. So in these feedback forums, you can say things like, what are your personal goals? What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? You know, they might want to save a deposit to buy a house. And you could help them with that by splitting their pay into 2 bank accounts for them, something simple. They might have a young family that they want to be able to spend more time with. So you might be able to be a bit flexible with their workday, or an RDO can go on your roster. So these things won't work for everybody, but you might have the flexibility in your business for them to be able to work for you. You might have young guys who aspire to run your workshop for you and would love to do any training that you can book them into. So you can set a training plan as part of their pathway and their journey through your business. You won't know these things unless you provide the right forum for them to be able to tell you what they want. And unless you know what they want, you can't help them get it, and they can't help you achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve. So our O in Turbo, our final letter, is open. You must be open to feedback from your team. So if you get some feedback in one of those forums or just in the daily huddle and you don't like the sound of it, you need to cop it on the chin and you need to go away and think slow about it later. Okay, but the first thing that you need to do is show gratitude and say thank you for them being open with you. You need to be open to feedback from your customers. So if they come in, we all love the great feedback that they might bring to us, but if they've got something that's not so positive, then you need to be open to that as well and use it as a learning opportunity. Okay, if you get a bad review on Facebook, on Google, somewhere where it can't be removed, it's actually the way that you respond to it that other people will look at. It's not necessarily the bad review. So take the feedback, think slow about it. Did this really occur? And if it did, what can we do to stop it from happening again? And be professional in your response. And you also need to be open to coaching. So the best leaders in the world never stop learning. They never stop coming into rooms like this. So congratulations again, everyone, for being here. Their thirst for learning never goes away. And many of them will have a mentor. You need to listen. You need to really, really listen. And it's listening to understand, not listening just for the right of reply. Okay, many of you before today's session would feel such overwhelm at times that you're defensive often about many things. So you might ask a question of a team member, what did you do it that way for? But you're not really wanting their response, you're just wanting the opportunity to nail them, really. So is anyone familiar with that? You know, getting it off your chest? Yeah. Okay. So just change that. And this is not going to be a quick fix. You're not going to be cured on Monday, but you need to work at it. Okay? So ask better questions, and you might also get better answers. But listen to understand. Okay? It goes back to thinking slowly. Ask the questions and be in control of the situation. Who wants more freedom in their auto repair business? Who would like to walk in and walk out as you please if you don't already? Yeah. Your one and only job is to grow and inspire more leaders. So we'll make that one do a pretty spin, because it is just so important. If you want to be able to go on holidays and the business run without you, and there be no catastrophes, and everyone be motivated and continue to be inspired by the person that you leave in charge, then your job is to grow and inspire more leaders. But that starts with you. So who thinks that they can have a crack at being a better leader? Who knows that they've got it within them? Fantastic. So I will be down on my stand for the rest of the day. Come and chat to me if you're unsure of how to implement some of the things that we've spoken about today. It's, as I said, it's not an overnight fix. Being a better boss, being a better leader, getting some of those transformational leader elements is a work in progress. But as long as you are present to be able to work on a little bit every day, you will get there and your team members will notice. Okay? And the level of trust and respect will grow with each passing week. So I want to thank you for being in the audience for me today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I think Colin's been taking some questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here for you.
Sure.
Okay, the first one is, why do you think workshop owners find it so difficult to get great leaders?
I think that's a case of they've been lacking in great role models as leaders while they were growing up in the trade. So most guys probably respected the person that they did their apprenticeship with. They were a great mechanic, but they weren't necessarily great leaders. So they don't have that process to fall back on.
Thinking process. That gets to the next one then. How long does it take for a workshop owner to transition to the manager that you've been talking about?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's not an overnight process, but if you worked on this every day and if you slip up and you go back to the autocratic style, or there's too much laissez-faire where you just abdicate all the leadership, have a think about why that happened and recognise what the triggers are, and just agree to give it another crack the next day. So it's a work in progress, but you start on Monday and by this time next year your business will be transformed.